Nobody had ever heard her voice. Not the media, not the servants, not the business partners, not even the enemies of her husband. For 10 years, the wife of the most feared Korean mafia boss never spoke a single word. People thought she was mute. People thought she was afraid. People thought she was forced into marriage. But the truth was much darker, and everything changed the day she met a poor African waitress named Chinelo. What happened after that shocked even the mafia boss himself. In Seoul, South Korea, there was a man whose name made powerful people nervous. His name was Kang Min-jae. He owned shipping companies, hotels, casinos, construction companies, and security firms. On the outside, he was a businessman, but in the shadows, everyone knew the truth. He controlled the underground world. No deal happened without his approval. No enemy lasted long. No one dared cross his path. But the most mysterious thing about Kang Min-jae was not his money or power, it was his wife. Her name was Han Soo-min. She was beautiful, elegant, calm, and always dressed in expensive clothes. She attended events with her husband, stood beside him, smiled politely. But she never spoke, not once. Reporters tried to ask her questions. She smiled but said nothing. Business partners greeted her. She bowed but said nothing. Even at charity events, she never spoke. People began to call her the silent wife. Rumors spread everywhere. Some said she was mute. Some said the mafia boss broke her voice. Some said she saw something terrible. But nobody knew the truth. 10 years earlier, Soo-min had been a completely different person. She was cheerful, talkative, and loved music. She studied art and piano in university. Her dream was to open an art school for children. But one night changed her life forever. Her father had borrowed money from dangerous men he could not pay back. So they came to the house. They broke things. They shouted. They dragged her father outside. Soo-min screamed and begged them to stop. She cried. She shouted for help. But nobody came. That night, her father was badly beaten. He survived, but Soo-min never recovered from what she saw. After that night, she stopped talking. Not because she didn't want to, but because she couldn't. Doctors called it trauma-induced mutism. Her voice was not damaged. Her mind locked her voice away because of fear and trauma. Months later, her father died from illness and stress, leaving her alone and in debt. And that was when Kang Min-jae entered her life. Kang Min-jae paid all her father's debts. He bought her a house. He hired doctors for her treatment. He protected her from the people who wanted the debt back. Then one day, he made an offer. He told her, "Marry me, I will protect you for the rest of your life." She did not love him. She was not happy. But she had no family, no money, no protection. So she agreed, and she became the wife of the most feared mafia boss in Korea. But their marriage was strange. He never forced her to talk. He never hurt her. He gave her everything: cars, clothes, jewelry, houses, servants. But he was cold, very cold. He treated her like someone he needed to protect, not someone he loved. They lived in the same mansion but felt like strangers. And for 10 years, she never spoke a single word. One year, Kang Min-jae had a shipping business deal in Nigeria. He decided to travel with his wife. They stayed in a very expensive hotel in Lagos. The city was noisy, busy, colorful, and full of life. Soo-min watched from the car window like a child seeing the world for the first time. That evening, they went to the hotel restaurant for dinner. That was where she met Chinelo. Chinelo was a waitress. She looked young, maybe 23 years old. She had tired eyes but a bright smile. Her uniform was old but clean. As she served their table, she accidentally dropped a spoon. Immediately, the restaurant manager rushed over and shouted at her in front of everyone, "Are you blind? This is VIP table. Be careful." Everyone in the restaurant looked at her. It was embarrassing. But Chinelo did something unexpected. She smiled. She apologized politely. "Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir." She picked the spoon, replaced it, and continued working like nothing happened. Soo-min watched her the whole night. She could not understand. Why would someone smile when being embarrassed? Why would someone smile when life was clearly hard? That night, Su-min could not stop thinking about the waitress. The next day, Su-min returned to the restaurant alone with a bodyguard. She wrote on a piece of paper, "Call the waitress named Chinelo." When Chinelo came, she looked scared, thinking she was in trouble. Su-min wrote again, "Sit down." Chinelo was shocked. Customers don't ask waitresses to sit, but she sat slowly. Then Su-min wrote, "Why were you smiling yesterday when the manager shouted at you?" Chinelo read the note and laughed softly. Then she said something very simple but very powerful. She said, "Madam, if I cry for every problem, I will cry every day, so I just smile and move on." Su-min looked at her carefully. Then Chinelo continued talking. "My father is sick. My mother sells vegetables in the market. I have 3 younger brothers in school. I am the one paying their school fees, so shouting cannot kill me. Life is bigger than shouting." She smiled again. Then Su-min noticed something. Chinelo's shoes were torn, very torn, almost broken. So she wrote, "Why don't you buy new shoes?" Chinelo smiled again and said, "School fees first, shoes later." That sentence hit Su-min's heart like a hammer. School fees first, shoes later. She had more than 50 pairs of expensive shoes she never even wore, but this girl could not afford one. That night, Su-min could not sleep. The next day, Su-min returned again with a box. Inside the box was a new pair of shoes and an envelope filled with money. She gave it to Chinelo. When Chinelo opened the box and saw the shoes, she froze. When she opened the envelope and saw the money, she started shaking. "Madam, I cannot take this. This is too much." Su-min wrote on paper, "You smiled when life was hard. I want to help you smile more." Chinelo started crying. Then she said something Su-min would never forget. She said, "Madam, you are rich, but your eyes are very sad. You are the one that needs help, not me." Nobody had ever said that to Su-min before. Not her husband, not doctors, not servants. But this poor waitress saw her sadness immediately. After that day, Su-min and Chinelo became friends. Every day after Chinelo finished work, she visited Su-min at the hotel. They communicated by writing on paper. They talked about life, family, dreams, pain, happiness. One day, Chinelo asked her, "Madam, why don't you talk?" Su-min wrote, "I cannot." Chinelo asked again, "Or you are afraid to?" Su-min stopped writing. Afraid? Was she afraid? That night, she thought deeply. Maybe she was not only unable to talk, maybe she was afraid to talk, afraid of remembering her past, afraid of pain, afraid of her memories. The next day, Chinelo told her a story. "When I was small, I used to stammer. Children laughed at me, so I stopped talking in school for 1 year. One day, my mother told me something I will never forget." She paused and smiled. She said, "If you keep quiet, the world will think you have no voice, but God did not create you without a voice." Then Chinelo looked at Su-min and said slowly, "Madam, maybe your voice is not gone, you just locked it." Those words changed everything. That night, Su-min stood in front of the mirror in the hotel room. She opened her mouth. No sound. She tried again. Nothing. She started crying. Then she remembered Chinelo's words. God did not create you without a voice. She tried again. Her lips shook. Her throat tightened. Then suddenly, a small sound came out. Ah! She froze. She tried again. Tha! Tears rolled down her face. After 10 years, she made a sound. The next day, she called Chinelo to the hotel room. Chinelo came, thinking something was wrong. Su-min tried again to speak. Her voice was rough and weak. Then slowly, painfully, she said, "Thank you." Chinelo covered her mouth in shock. "Madam, you spoke. You spoke." Both of them started crying. That evening, Kang Min-jae returned from his meeting. He walked into the room and saw his wife smiling. That was already unusual. Then she walked toward him slowly. She opened her mouth and said, "Welcome, back." Kang Min-jae froze. He thought he was dreaming. For 10 years, he had never heard her voice. He sat down slowly, shocked. How? He asked. She wrote on paper and showed him. Chinelo, the waitress. That night, Kang Min-jae told her a secret he had hidden for 10 years. He said, "The night those men came to your house for your father's debt, I was the one who sent them." Soo-min looked at him in shock. "I did not know they would hurt him. I only wanted my money. When I saw what happened to you, when I saw you lose your voice, I felt responsible. That is why I paid your debts. That is why I married you. At first it was guilt, but later I started loving you." For the first time in 10 years, she spoke again. "You should have told me." He replied quietly, "I was afraid you would hate me." She shook her head slowly. "I was already lonely. I could not hate you too." That was the first real conversation they had in 10 years of marriage. Before leaving Nigeria, Kang Min-jae and his wife called Chinelo. They handed her documents. It was a full university scholarship, tuition, accommodation, allowance, everything paid. Chinelo started crying immediately. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked. Kang Min-jae replied, "You gave my wife her voice back. This is a small thank you." Soo-min smiled and said slowly, "You gave me my life." Back 1 year later, at a big charity event in Seoul, something shocking happened. Kang Min-jae stood on stage and said, "Today, someone else will speak." Everyone was confused. Then Soo-min walked to the microphone. The entire hall became silent. People whispered, "She cannot talk. She never talks. This is impossible." She took a deep breath and spoke clearly. "For 10 years I was silent, not because I had no voice, but because I was afraid to use it. One poor girl from another continent taught me that life is bigger than fear. Today I will use my voice to help people who cannot speak for themselves." Many people in the audience started crying. Kang Min-jae stood there, proud. His silent wife was silent no more. After Chinelo received the university scholarship, she thought that was the end of the story. She returned to her normal life, but everything had changed. Her brothers went back to school without worrying about fees. Her father started treatment. Her mother stopped overworking in the market. For the first time in many years, Chinelo slept without worrying about tomorrow. But 3 months later, something unexpected happened. A black car stopped in front of the small house where Chinelo lived with her family. People in the street started looking. 2 men in suits came out of the car and asked, "Are you Chinelo?" She became nervous immediately. "Yes, I am," she said slowly. They handed her a letter. Inside was a flight ticket to Seoul, South Korea, and a short note. "My wife wants to see you again. Kang Min-jae." Chinelo almost dropped the paper. She had never entered an airplane before. She had never left Nigeria before. She had never even imagined traveling to Korea. Her mother started crying when she heard the news. "Go," her mother said. "Some people enter your life only once. Don't miss this chance." 2 weeks later, Chinelo entered an airplane for the first time in her life. She was scared, excited, and nervous at the same time. She had no idea that this trip would change her life forever again. When Chinelo arrived in Seoul, a long black car was already waiting for her at the airport. She was driven through beautiful roads, tall buildings, and quiet, rich neighborhoods. Finally, the car stopped in front of a massive gate. The gate opened slowly. Inside was a mansion so big that Chinelo thought it was a hotel. Fountains, gardens, statues, luxury cars parked outside. She whispered to herself, "People really live like this." A woman ran out of the house immediately. It was Soo-min. She looked happier, healthier, and more alive than before. And then she spoke clearly, "Chinelo." Chinelo froze. She had never heard Soo-min speak properly before. They hugged each other tightly. Both of them were crying again. "You can talk now," Chinelo said happily. Soo-min smiled. "Yes, because of you." At that moment, Kang Min-jae walked out slowly and looked at Chinelo carefully. He nodded once and said, "Welcome to Korea, Chinelo." She bowed nervously. She was standing in front of one of the most dangerous men in Korea, but strangely, she was not afraid. What Chinelo did not know was that Kang Min-jae did not invite her only to say thank you. He wanted to test her. He had seen many people act kind when they wanted something from rich people, but he wanted to know if Chinelo was truly kind or just pretending. So he planned 3 tests. The next morning, Chinelo was walking in the garden when she saw an old maid carrying a heavy box and struggling to walk. Chinelo immediately ran to help her. "Let me help you, Mama," she said, carrying the box. The old maid smiled and thanked her. What Chinelo did not know was that the old maid was actually Kang Min-jae's aunt pretending to be a worker. From the window, Kang Min-jae watched everything silently. He said nothing, but he continued watching. Later that day, Chinelo was walking in the hallway when she saw an envelope on the floor. She picked it up and opened it. Inside was a lot of money, more money than she had ever seen in her life at once. She looked around. No one was there. She could easily take it. No one would know. She stood there for almost 1 minute thinking. Then she closed the envelope and walked to the security office. "I found this on the floor," she said. "Someone might be looking for it." The security guard took it and thanked her. Upstairs, Kang Min-jae was watching through the CCTV camera. He nodded slowly. That evening during dinner, one of Kang Min-jae's business partners came to the house. He was a rude man. Min-jae had already told him to help with the test. During dinner, the man looked at Chinelo and said loudly, "So this is the poor waitress that became friends with a rich woman?" The table became silent. He continued, "People like you are always looking for rich people to help them. Very smart." Chinelo felt embarrassed, but she did not get angry. She did not shout. She did not cry. She simply smiled and said calmly, "Sir, I was poor yesterday. I may be poor tomorrow, but I cannot be poor in character. That one is a choice." The entire table became silent. Kang Min-jae slowly put down his glass and looked at her carefully. That was the moment he knew. She was different, very different. That night, Kang Min-jae called Chinelo and Soo-min into his office. He said, "I did not invite you to Korea only to say thank you. I invited you because you changed my wife's life, and I wanted to see what kind of person you really are." Chinelo became nervous. He continued, "I tested you 3 times. You helped someone when you thought she was a maid. You returned money when no one was watching. You stayed calm when someone insulted you." He paused and then said something shocking. "From today, you will not work as a waitress again." Chinelo's eyes widened. "I am sponsoring your education in business management. When you finish, you will come and work for one of my companies." Chinelo was speechless. She did not even know what to say. Soo-min held her hand and smiled. "You helped me find my voice. Now we will help you find your future." Chinelo started crying again, but not everyone was happy that Soo-min could speak again. Kang Min-jae had many enemies, and when they heard that his silent wife was now speaking, they became worried. Because Soo-min knew many secrets. One night, a black car followed Soo-min's car on the way back from a charity event. The driver noticed and tried to escape, but the other car chased them. Soo-min became scared. She remembered the night her father was attacked. Her hands started shaking, but this time something was different. Instead of keeping quiet, she spoke loudly. "Drive to the main road. Call Min-jae now." Her driver was shocked. She was giving orders confidently. The chase ended when Min-jae's security team arrived and blocked the attackers. That night, Kang Min-jae looked at his wife and realized something. She was no longer the silent, scared girl he married. She was strong now, very strong, and Chinelo was the reason. 1 year later, Soo-min started a charity foundation. The foundation helped children who couldn't go to school, women who experienced trauma, people who lost their voice due to shock or fear, poor families who needed medical help. She named the foundation the Chinelo Foundation. When Chinelo heard this, she started crying again. "Madam, why did you name it after me?" she asked. Soo-min smiled and said, "Because you gave me my voice, and now we will use that voice to help others." At the grand opening of the foundation, many rich people, politicians, and business leaders attended. Soo Min stood on the stage to give a speech. Kang Min Jae sat in the front row. Chinelo sat beside him wearing a beautiful dress, looking confident and proud. Soo Min looked at the crowd and said, 10 years ago I stopped speaking because I was afraid of the world. I thought money, protection, and big houses would make life better. But I was wrong. The person who changed my life was not rich, not powerful, not famous. She was a poor waitress with torn shoes and a big heart. She looked at Chinelo and smiled. Then she continued, sometimes the people who have nothing are the ones who give the most. Chinelo gave me courage. She gave me friendship. She gave me my voice back. And today we will use that voice to help thousands of people. The entire hall stood up and started clapping. Kang Min Jae looked at his wife with pride. Then he looked at Chinelo and said quietly, you didn't just change her life, you changed mine too. Chinelo smiled and replied softly, sir, sometimes God sends us into people's lives not because we are rich or powerful, but because we are needed. Sometimes the richest person in the room is not the one with the most money. Sometimes it is the one with the kindest heart. A silent woman found her voice, a poor girl found her future, and a mafia boss found something he never had before: peace. And all of it started with a poor waitress named Chinelo who smiled even when life was hard. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to see more exciting stories.